Michael Brown, Freddie Gray, Eric Garner, Sandra Bland, and Walter Scott. What do these 5 individuals have in common? They were all victims of racial discrimination, which ended in death. Racial discrimination is defined as the act of treating someone differently than others because of the color of his or her skin. Because of racism, minorities are denied jobs, financing, twice as likely to be pulled over, 4 times more likely to be arrested, and 6 times more likely to be incarcerated. According to research, applicants have a better chance to receive an interview if the employer cannot determine his or her race by their first or last name. Forbes' article by Dinah Jerdeman stated that 25% of Black applicants with common names received a callback, while only 10% with ethnic names. Colin Kaepernick, the quarterback who led the San Francisco 49ers to Super Bowl 47, refused to stand for the national anthem in protest of the treatment of African Americans in the United States. Because of this protest, he is currently unemployed and he will probably never play in the NFL again. Many of his fans are outraged by the NFL's decision. They believe it to be discrimination. However, Colin Kaepernick was awarded Citizen of the Year for 2017 by GQ magazine. As posted in LA Times, in 2015, Honda Motor Corporation, America's 9th largest auto dealer, was forced to pay minority customers $24 million for charging them more for financing. They were also mandated to change their prices for loans. The Washington Post published an article in 2016 stating that Black Americans are 2.5 times more likely to be shot and killed by police officers. Racial minorities make up approximately 38.9% of the U.S. population and 47% of armed and unarmed victims, but they make up 63.9% of unarmed people killed by police. First, I would like to thank you on behalf of myself and all the kids at Hillgrove High School for helping to keep our community safe and protected.
You are very welcome, young lady.
Okay, I'm doing a documentary about racial discrimination and would like to discuss police brutality and how it plays a role in it.
All right.
Before we begin our discussion, will you please introduce yourself and tell us about your background in law enforcement?
My name is Major Michael A. Williams. I've been with the Cobb County Sheriff's Office. I've been serving since 1990, a little over 27 years.
Okay. Do you think police brutality should be a valid concern of the citizens, or do you think it's hyped up by the media?
Police brutality does exist, without a doubt. However, I think the racial undertones of it are a little bit blown out of proportion. In other words, when there is a case of police brutality, it's more likely due to the officer's behavior. It's because of his underlying tones more so than I'm going to beat him because he's black, or I'm going to shoot him because he's black. There are more white victims of police homicides than there are blacks, but it's just not blown up. It's not as big a story as it is if a white policeman shoots a young black man.
And with that being said, do you have kids and how old are they?
I do have I have a 18-year-old daughter and I have a 16-year-old son.
Okay. Do you have conversations with them about how to handle themselves if they were pulled over by a police officer?
I do. I often do. I tell my son, because he is a young black man and I worry about him. But when he's pulled over, I have talked to him. I've told him, given him instructions. If his vehicle has tinted windows, I tell them to lower all of the windows, turn the engine completely off so there's no music. Don't be on your cell phone, keep your hands on the steering wheel. And those things are not, I tell him those things not because he's a young black man. I tell him those things because what it does is it makes the officer safe. A lot of people have the misconception that officers are killed in shootouts, bank robberies, when in fact, most of the time when those type of crimes have been committed, the officers only respond. Most officers are killed during traffic pullovers. And second to that is domestic violence, when they're answering a call for someone during domestic violence. So when the officer approaches a vehicle, he knows, you may not know, but he knows that this is the best chance I have to be assaulted or be fired upon. It's not during a robbery, it's not during anything else. So I teach my son and my daughter to carry these acts out so they can make the officer safe, make him feel safe, because he's afraid. I've been doing this for 27 years, and if I pull a vehicle over, I'm afraid. It's not that it's a traffic light or running a stop sign. It's, I don't know if I pulled over Malia or if I pulled over a terrorist. I don't know who you are until we encounter each other.
Well, that's the end of all the questions, and I would like to thank you again for coming out.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
First, I would like to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk with me.
Of course.
And could you please introduce yourself and tell me about what you do?
I'm attorney L. Chris Stewart. I'm managing partner of Stewart C. Felton. We have an office in Atlanta, office in Macon. Our law firm does catastrophic injury and a lot of civil rights.
Yeah, that has to be a very fulfilling career. Have you ever defended anyone recently that was a victim of racial discrimination?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of our civil rights cases have elements of racial discrimination. Some of them are victims of racial profiling, getting pulled over while they're driving just because they're African American or in the wrong neighborhood. Sometimes people get abused because they think they're poor and just get taken advantage of.
Do you have any examples of these cases?
Yeah, the most recent one was the Walter Scott case in Charleston, where the guy was running away from that police officer and he shot him in the back and killed him. We just left trial, and the officer will be going to jail for 20 years for murder, for shooting Mr. Scott.
Based on your experience, are minorities targeted more than non-minorities in similar situations?
Well, yeah. I mean, just statistically, that's evident. But a lot of it happens because decisions are made to focus a lot of police officers on areas where minorities live. And sometimes it's unfair that those areas get targeted so heavily by police officers.
Well, that's all the questions I have for you, and I would like to thank you again for letting me interview you.
Of course, Madam President.
Today is a historic day for civil rights, particularly in officer-involved shootings. This is one of the largest sentences ever. Being found guilty of second-degree murder and obstruction of justice is historic. And I hope that the entire nation understands how big this is and what this means for everyone, no matter what color you are. This is all people crave, is accountability. That's all that people want when you're questioning why somebody may be kneeling, when you're seeing why someone may be marching in the street. They're not doing it just to cause a fuss. They're doing it because the sense of accountability has been lost in officer-involved shootings.
Justice is the administration of deserved punishment. Walter Scott and his family received justice. However, most do not. Justice is good, but if all men are created equal, racial discrimination should not occur in the first place. To end racial discrimination, it starts with you. Everyone is equal. Let's start supporting one another and continue to peacefully fight for equal rights.